Iran says it's reviewing the latest U.S. proposal to end the war, but the two countries exchanged strikes in the Strait of Hormuz Thursday. 3 U.S. Navy destroyers came under fire, but they were reportedly not hit. President Trump said the U.S. overpowered the Iranian forces.
They were firing at us, and we were firing back at them. And our firepower was a hell of a lot stronger than theirs, and they knocked the hell out of them.
CBS News senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams joins us from Tel Aviv with more now. Holly, good morning. Great to see you. What more can you tell us about this latest escalation, and what are we hearing from Iran?
Good morning, Errol. Well, U.S. Central Command said that those 3 American guided missile destroyers came under attack by Iran using drones, missiles and boats. The U.S. military said that it then responded, but that no American assets were damaged. As usual, Errol, Iran is telling a very different version of events. The Iranians are saying that the U.S. initiated the exchange of fire and accusing U.S. forces of attacking an Iranian oil tanker. Now, on a separate but related issue, that is a possible peace deal, Iran said yesterday that it had not yet reached a conclusion on a U.S. proposal. And just in the last few minutes, we heard from the Iranian foreign minister via a social media post who said, quote, "Every time a diplomatic solution is on the table, the U.S. opts for a reckless military adventure." Now, what to make of those statements? Well, first of all, it could just mean that the Iranians are considering the U.S. proposal and are perhaps frustrated by U.S. actions. On the other hand, it could also mean, this is speculation, but it could mean that the Iranians are slow walking the process of negotiations because they believe they have a strategic advantage, because they've managed to paralyze commercial traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, sending gas prices soaring and piling pressure on President Trump to end the conflict. They may be using that and slow walking negotiations. But finally, it could mean that Iran, because of the war and because of deadly strikes on Iranian leaders, that the Iranian leadership is in disarray and unable to make any fast decisions. The bottom line is we don't know what's going on behind closed doors in Tehran. The Iranian regime is known for many things, Errol, but transparency is not one of them.
Yeah, adding to this quite complicated picture. Holly Williams in Tel Aviv for us. Holly, thank you. President Trump told reporters Thursday night there's a chance a peace deal could be reached between the U.S. and Iran, quote, any day, but he said it also might not. President Trump has said that any longer-term peace agreement would need to include regulation of Iran's nuclear program. Now, this new potential deal would replace the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. It introduced strict limits on Iran's production of nuclear material in exchange for lifting severe sanctions on Iran. CBS News' Jared Hill is back to give us some context on what was included in that 2015 deal that President Trump actually tore up. Jared, good to see you. What's the deal?
Good to see you, Errol. So let's go back about a decade ago here. So in that 2015 deal, around the time of the Iran nuclear deal, U.S. intelligence had determined that Iran could enrich enough uranium to power a nuclear weapon within 2 to 3 months if it wanted to. World leaders worry that tensions would escalate across the region if that happened, even leading to countries like Saudi Arabia starting their own nuclear weapons programs. Here's where the deal comes in, though. Decades of harsh sanctions had cost Iran hundreds of billions of dollars. We're talking more than $100 billion just between 2012 and 2014, according to the Federal Reserve. Under the JCPOA, all nuclear sanctions would be lifted and more than $100 billion in oil revenue in frozen accounts would be released to Iran. But they had to agree to several key nuclear weapons requirements. There were caps on how much enriched uranium Iran could store, and the level to which it could be enriched had to be well below the 90% needed for a weapon. There were also limits on the number of centrifuges Iran could operate to make nuclear material. Iran also had to allow independent monitors from the International Atomic Energy Agency to check its nuclear facilities. All of this so Iran could invest in nuclear energy, but not a nuclear weapon. Errol.
And Jared, President Trump has not held back his opposition to that deal. How have things changed since Trump's first administration?
Yeah, he is not someone who likes this agreement. Trump ended the U.S. participation in the deal back in 2018 and restored all the prior sanctions. He argued that it had a, quote, rotten structure because it didn't include commitments for Iran to end its ballistic missile program or its funding to groups that the U.S. deemed terrorist organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas. He explained his perspective on the deal when he announced his decision to formally pull the U.S. out. Take a listen.
In other words, at the point when the United States had maximum leverage, this disastrous deal gave this regime, and it's a regime of great terror, many billions of dollars, some of it in actual cash. A great embarrassment to me as a citizen and to all citizens of the United States.
Now, since the U.S. withdrawal in 2018, Iran has slowly stopped cooperating with the agreement. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran had over 21,000 pounds of enriched uranium. That's about 33 times more than was allowed under the deal. It's also enriching some of that uranium to 60% purity, which is much closer to weapons grade level of 90% and significantly more than the enrichment level that was agreed to in the JCPOA. Now, we don't know specifically what's in this new proposed deal, but the Trump administration has said that any deal would include strict limitations on Iran's ability to enrich uranium. Errol, that's one of the reasons we're watching this issue so closely.
Yeah, very important historical context there. Jared, thank you very much. Yeah.